In the world of classic cars, one name always makes eyes light up: the 1957 Chevy Bel Air. More than just transportation, it became a memory, a symbol of post-war American optimism and prosperity. Its graceful lines, dramatic tail fins, and gleaming chrome turned it into the American dream on four wheels. Yet what makes the 57 Bel Air truly fascinating lies beyond its beauty. Hidden within its history are strange stories few have ever heard, small details that became legends, secrets buried for decades, and events that still defy explanation. In this video, we'll uncover the 12 weirdest facts about the 1957 Chevy Bel Air, tales that will make you see this legendary car from an entirely new perspective. Number 1. The heater core scandal. The 1957 Chevy Bel Air was famous not only for its flashy looks, but also for a technical blunder that frustrated countless owners: a new heater core promoted as more efficient than ever. In reality, it was so efficient it became a disaster. These heater cores ran dangerously hot enough to literally cook the antifreeze. Once broken down, the coolant turned into a thick syrup that gave off a burnt marshmallow smell. This sticky substance clogged the cooling system, ruined radiators, and overheated engines. Some Bel Airs went through 3 radiators in their very first year. At first, Chevrolet blamed everyone but itself: the owners, the mechanics, even the antifreeze brand customers used. They flatly denied any design flaw, but pressure mounted as dealerships replaced cooling systems on brand new cars week after week. By early 1958, Chevrolet quietly issued a technical service bulletin admitting the heater cores were defective and authorized free replacements. There was no recall, no public announcement. Thousands of Bel Air owners never learned why their cars kept overheating. Number 2. The paint code mix-up. Among the most popular colors of 1957, larkspur blue was a favorite. But what few realized was that thousands of Bel Airs left the factory wearing a completely different shade than customers had ordered. The culprit was a simple but costly mistake. The paint code cards Chevrolet distributed to dealers were misprinted. Specifically, the codes for larkspur blue and harbor blue had been swapped. As a result, cars ordered in larkspur rolled out in harbor, and vice versa. At first, almost no one noticed. The two shades were similar, both medium blues. Yet side by side, the difference was obvious. Larkspur carried a slight purple tint, while harbor leaned greenish. Many buyers simply assumed lighting made their cars look different. It wasn't until a Michigan dealer received 2 supposedly identical larkspur blue Bel Airs that he realized the truth. The cars were clearly 2 different colors. He reported it to Chevrolet, and the investigation confirmed the misprint. But instead of making a public statement, Chevrolet quietly corrected the codes and moved on. Number 3. The speedometer that whispered, "Slow down." The 1957 Chevy Bel Air's speedometer was boldly marked up to 120 miles per hour, an optimistic figure for a car that barely reached 95. Yet the real mystery lay in a tiny detail. On certain cars, at exactly the 100 miles per hour mark, faint letters spelled out "Slow down." Not every Bel Air had it, and Chevrolet never acknowledged the feature. Collectors later discovered it only appeared on cars assembled in Flint, Michigan between March and May of 1957, and curiously, only on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The truth eventually surfaced. A line worker named Harold Patterson had secretly added the phrase to the dials. The year before, he had lost his son in a high-speed crash. For Harold, It was a quiet crusade to remind drivers of the danger. Instead of firing him, plant management allowed it, considering it a human gesture. Today, Bel Airs with these unique dials are affectionately known as Harold cars. Number 4. The Canadian radio's mysterious CD button. If you bought a 1957 Chevy Bel Air in the United States, its radio looked completely normal. But in Canada, things were different. Canadian Bel Airs came with an unusual extra button marked simply CD. Of course, this had nothing to do with compact discs. That technology was decades away. Instead, CD stood for civil defense. After World War II, the Canadian government, fearing nuclear conflict, required all new cars to have radios capable of tuning into emergency broadcasts. Pressing the CD button would, in theory, let drivers hear alerts in the event of a disaster or nuclear strike. It sounded important, but in practice, it was useless. The emergency broadcast network was never fully built, and no frequencies were ever assigned. So when drivers pressed CD, all they got was static. Even Chevrolet dealers in Canada couldn't explain what it did. It wasn't until the 1980s that a retired Canadian defense official revealed the entire civil defense program had been abandoned. Number 5. The trunk light that doubled as an emergency flare. At first glance, the trunk light in the 1957 Chevy Bel Air seemed ordinary, just a handy lamp to help owners find their luggage in the dark. But hidden in its design was a clever secret only a few people knew about. The Bel Air's trunk light was fitted with a special red filter that could be flipped down, instantly turning the white beam into a warning signal. Even more surprising, the light assembly could be removed from its socket and came with a 6-foot cord, just long enough to place it on the road behind the car, serving as an emergency roadside flare. Strangely, Chevrolet never advertised or mentioned this feature in any owner's manual. The main reason, many believe, was fear of liability if someone misused it and caused an accident. Only a handful of engineers and factory workers were aware of the hidden capability. It wasn't until the early 1960s that a former Chevrolet engineer casually revealed the truth in a car magazine interview, stunning collectors. Number 6. The Glovebox Time Capsule. In 1957, Chevrolet came up with a curious way to mark a milestone. They secretly hid time capsules inside certain Bel Airs. No announcements, no sales brochures, just a quiet project carried out by designers and engineers. Roughly 500 cars received a small metal box welded into the glove box frame. Inside was a letter from Chevrolet's chief designer, a silver dollar, and a note predicting what cars would look like in the year 2007. The idea was to reveal them on the Bel Air's 50th anniversary. But as years passed, those who knew retired, records were lost, and the plan was forgotten. In 2003, a restorer in Arizona stumbled upon one while dismantling a glove box. News spread quickly, and soon other owners began searching. About 40 capsules have been uncovered so far. The predictions inside were both naive and optimistic. Nuclear-powered cars, short-distance flying vehicles, and fully self-driving models. While inaccurate, they revealed the boundless faith in technology of the 1950s. Number 7. The color that never was. Jamaican turquoise. In Chevrolet's official 1957 paint catalog, there was a color with an exotic name, Jamaican turquoise. The name evoked the crystal waters of the Caribbean, promising a fresh, eye-catching finish for the Bel Air. But here's the strange part. Not a single car ever left the factory wearing it. The story began with a Chevrolet designer who, after a vacation in Jamaica, was inspired by the island's turquoise waters and wanted to bring that shade to the Bel Air. The color was approved, printed in catalogs, and even mixed and tested. But when supplier DuPont conducted final checks, they discovered a serious flaw. The brilliant turquoise would fade to a dull green in just 6 months of sunlight. Chevrolet couldn't admit the mistake publicly. Instead, they quietly left the color in the catalog but never filled any orders. Dealers were instructed to tell customers it was temporarily unavailable. Number 8. The UFO incident at the Janesville plant. On October 15, 1957, the night shift at Chevrolet's Janesville, Wisconsin plant turned into one of the strangest episodes in automotive history. At 8:37 p.m., the factory lights flickered and dimmed. Workers looked up through skylights to see a massive circular object hovering above the Bel Air assembly line. Witnesses described it as silent, metallic, and as large as a football field. For 4 minutes, chaos reigned inside the plant. Welding torches sparked uncontrollably, paint guns sprayed on their own, and the conveyor belt actually reversed direction. Then, without warning, the object shot straight into the sky and vanished. When power returned, workers noticed something bizarre. Every radio in about 30 Bel Airs on the line had mysteriously tuned to the same frequency, 88.7 FM, a channel that didn't even exist in the area. Plant management quickly ordered silence. The official report blamed electrical interference from a storm, even though the night sky had been perfectly clear. To this day, the Janesville UFO incident remains unexplained, one of the eeriest legends attached to the 1957 Bel Air. Number 9. The cursed VIN sequence. Every car carries a unique VIN, but for the 1957 Chevy Bel Air, one sequence stands out: B57 C130000 through B57 C13999. More than 10,000 numbers were skipped, never assigned to any car. Chevrolet's official explanation was a clerical error, yet workers at the Flint plant told a different tale. On June 13, 1957, the first Bel Air, with VIN B57 C130000, rolled off the line. Within hours, 3 workers suffered accidents, while the car itself was plagued with problems: a seized engine, a failed transmission, and misaligned panels. Subsequent cars in the sequence fared no better: electrical shorts, bad paint, unexplained rattles. After only 17 vehicles, management made an unprecedented decision: scrap the VIN run, destroy the plates, and buy back the cars that had left the factory. Officially, those cars never existed. Unofficially, state registration records show that a handful did escape. Number 10. The Wonderbar radio and the secret number stations. Among the premium options for the 1957 Chevy Bel Air, the Wonderbar radio stood out. It allowed drivers to tap the bar and let the unit automatically scan and stop on the strongest signal. But many owners soon reported something unusual. Late at night, usually between 2 and 4 a.m., their radios picked up strange broadcasts unlike any normal station. Instead of music or news, they heard a monotone voice reading endless strings of numbers: 7, 4, 9, 2, 6. No call signs, no commercials, no identification. Attempts to tune the same frequency with other radios resulted only in static. The mystery lay in the Wonderbar's unique antenna and tuning circuitry, which accidentally made it more sensitive to weak signals. Decades later, the CIA admitted that these were numbers stations, coded broadcasts sent to agents in the field during the Cold War. What no one has ever proven is whether Chevrolet's design was a pure accident or whether government influence played a role. Number 11. The deadly tropical turquoise paint. Among the most striking colors offered on the 1957 Chevy Bel Air, tropical turquoise stood out with its bright, jewel-like hue. To buyers of the time, it seemed like the perfect way to give their car extra flair. Yet beneath its beauty lay a hidden danger. Like most automotive paints of the 1950s, tropical turquoise contained lead, but its particular pigment blend produced a fine, toxic dust as it aged and flaked. Mechanics and body shop workers soon began noticing troubling symptoms: headaches, dizziness, memory loss, and in severe cases, blindness and permanent neurological damage. By 1959, the problem had grown so serious that insurance companies refused to cover shops handling tropical turquoise cars. Some dealers even repainted cars for free, just to clear inventory. Chevrolet never made a public admission, but internal documents later revealed the company knew the risk before production. They simply assumed it would take years for the paint to degrade enough to matter. Today, tropical turquoise remains the only automotive color classified by the US EPA as a hazardous material. Number 12. The FBI's secret order of 500 black Bel Airs. In 1957, while America was reveling in the golden age of chrome-covered cars, the FBI quietly went in a very different direction, secretly ordering 500 black four-door Chevy Bel Airs. To the public, these looked like ordinary sedans blending into traffic, but in reality, they were perfectly disguised surveillance machines. Each car carried unique modifications: a hidden compartment behind the rear seat, large enough to stash classified files, ammunition, or even wiretap equipment. These compartments were engineered so cleverly that even Chevrolet dealers couldn't detect them without special government instructions. The FBI's choice of the Bel Air wasn't just about popularity, though it was one of the most common cars on American roads. It was also about durability. Frames were reinforced, suspensions upgraded, and engines tuned for sustained, high-speed driving. In other words, these were muscle cars in disguise, hiding in plain sight. The strangest twist came later, when the government sold them off at auctions in the 1960s. Many new owners had no idea they'd bought a former spy machine. Decades later, restorers stumbled upon the hidden compartments by accident. One collector in Ohio even discovered sealed 1958 classified documents still tucked inside. The 1957 Chevy Bel Air is more than just a beautiful classic car. Behind its gleaming chrome and iconic tail fins lies a treasure trove of strange stories, from government secrets and bizarre mishaps to design quirks far ahead of their time. Each fact reveals a different side of the Bel Air, showing it not only defined an era's style, but also reflected the creativity, boldness, and occasional flaws of the American auto industry. Perhaps that's why this car still lives on in memory. It wasn't perfect, but its mix of beauty, mystery, and imperfections made it a legend. So what about you? Which of these 12 weird facts surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you won't miss more fascinating stories from the world of classic cars.